Hey everybody, Jessie here, coming to you with this month's video. And I'm out, man, it's beautiful weather out here and we're just enjoying a nice little breeze today. But this month, what I wanted to talk about is the concept of more. Because so many times, whether it is a spiritual person or whether it is just a basic, person trying to live their life and trying to get through life, and a lot of people in our society, they're pressed to have more, to do more, to get more, to be more. The bigger the better, right? And this is something that we're really, really heavily programmed with in our society, that we've got to have a bigger house, we've got to have more stuff, we've got to have this, we've got to have that, and that the concept of more. And when I say even the spiritual people, because even they will say we've got to have more of this into our lives, we've got to have more meditation, we've got to have more compassion, right? More. And it really starts to get out of hand. But what I really want to bring in is a new, maybe not a new aspect, but a thought for you to think about in regards to the aspect of all this more stuff. Because when we look at having more and feeling like we need more, it really can trigger our not enough patterns, right? Not good enough, not enough to do what we need, not enough this. So it gets us then focusing on all of this lack in our life. And we definitely don't want to focus on the lack, because we know when we put our attention on the lack, we create more lack in our life instead of getting more in our life. So then we spin our wheels doing all this hard work and doing all this stuff, and we don't really end up with more. And the thing about this moreness, or being more, all this more concept, is that it's really an illusion. So I brought with me today a couple of little pieces of things. I brought with me a piece of selenite and a piece of kyanite, and also one of my favorites, my big giant piece of selenite here, because this is going to help me with what I'm talking about today. And as you can see, a lot of people would look at this and go, wow, look at that piece of selenite. Like, that's over a foot, that's like 2 feet long or so. And that's heavy duty. And man, the energy in that, right? Because it's more, because it's bigger, it's got to have more energy to it than this little piece of selenite. But what we don't realize a lot of times is that this and this are actually exactly the same. Okay, so our human eyes, they want us to believe that these are two different things. They want us to believe that this is not as much as the 2 foot piece of selenite that I have. It wants us to believe that it is not good enough when we put it up, right, next to the big monster. And so when we do this, this is the same way our mind starts to think, because it starts this whole comparison process, and we start going, wow, I'm not as tall as that person, I'm not as thin as that person, I'm not as rich as that person, I don't have as much, I don't have this, I need more. But when we look at the components, this and this are exactly the same. What they have, what they are, is actually exactly the same. They're both a piece of selenite. They're both made up of the same components, okay? They both basically come out of the same region in the world. So they both have the same properties about them. They both operate on the same vibration, okay? Just because this piece is bigger, like when we look at codes, for example, this and this are exactly the same, okay? It's not about, hey, this is going to be more powerful for you than this is. And a lot of times, if we think about it, right, when we have more of something, it actually becomes more of a burden to us, right? If we have more weight, we might also have more pain in our life. If we have, more stuff in our life, we have more responsibilities in our life, more to clean, more to do, more to this, right? So more is not always so-called better. And what we really, again, want to drive home is that it's the energy, it's what you have to work with that makes the difference. It's not how big it is or how much of it you have. even a drop. And I talked a lot last month about this concept of how we view our separation from divine spirit and how we really are one, and how we get into this thought pattern of thinking we're separate and that spirit is outside of us or God is outside of us. Well, when we look at this concept too, it's kind of the same. It's not the same thing, but it's an aspect of realizing that we're enough exactly as we are. And just because this is a bigger chunk over here than this is, it doesn't make it better. So the components, and we realize that this is just as powerful as the big piece. But our eyes and our programming says, hey, well, the bigger piece is more powerful, right? Just like the bigger screen TV gives me a better experience and gives me this and gives me that. But in reality, you get to watch the same shows. They function the same way. They do the same thing. And so it becomes an illusion. This aspect of more becomes an illusion. Now, an interesting point is when we look at this from the aspect of codes, more actually runs on a code pattern of balance. So just like in nutrition, it's not that we have to have X amount of food in our system, X amount of vegetables, X amount of protein, things like that. It's the balance of the nutrients that allows our body to function at an optimum level. Not that we have so many cups of this and so many servings of that, but it's the balance of these things. And that brings me to another interesting piece when we look at things, and that's why I brought the kyanite in here, is because we sometimes will look at this other piece over here, right? This different piece, and the selenite goes, oh, why didn't I get to become a kyanite? And the kyanite's looking at it going, well, how come I can't be a selenite? We really want to take the time to honor our piece, our uniqueness, our vibration, because when we look at harnessing what we have to work with instead of the whole envy thing, and I talked some about that last week, now we can really become something. And so when we bring the selenite in, and we bring the kyanite in, and we have whatever other gemstones that we bring in, now what we start making up is earth, right? If all we had was rock, or all we had was grass, or all we had was sky, we wouldn't have earth the way we have earth. It takes all the individual components there. So I really want you to think about over the next month this concept of more, because it's not about how much you have. A drop of something can be as powerful as a whole glass of something. Okay? And that's where, when we hit these challenges and we hit the rough times in life, we want to remember this is just as powerful, and all we have to do is tune into it. So what makes us believe this is more? Because it's bigger in size. And what makes it more is not just the size, not just our physical dimensions of it, because again, the energy vibration is equally as powerful either way. But what makes it more is the way our attention focuses on it. So this draws in more of my attention, is what it is happening. And so our physical self needs these focuses, it needs these areas. So how this becomes that bigger piece is about how much we pay attention to it, how much consciousness we're giving it. So that's the difference, because really that person who is homeless, that person who's full of challenges, that person who's the drug addict, that person who you just can't stand, they are as divine as any spiritual master. They carry the same components within them. Remember, I talked about that last month. They carry exactly the same components within them. They are as much of the divine as anybody else, as that guru, as that leader, as that pope, as that priest. But our programming says we have to have all these levels and dimensions. But when we look at it in the terms of spirit, there isn't more. More doesn't exist, which brings it to an earthly thing, which is why greed is one of the things we really have to watch out for in this physical dimension, because it's an illusion, because we don't need more. We don't need more than what we have. And so as you start to look at that, think about that, because it only takes the smallest amount, the smallest piece, to ignite in something bigger. And if I focus on this piece as much as I focus on this, my eyes will actually start to see this equally as big. So it's all about how much attention I pay on it. We think, well, this is bigger, but it's drawing more of our attention in. And I could actually focus in on this piece right here, and the rest of things start to disappear because my focus goes more and more here, so it actually starts to, again, create that illusion of becoming bigger. But what makes us bigger? What makes us feel like we have more? It's our attention. It's our consciousness. It's our awareness. It's our understanding that this is just as much as that. And once we take that understanding, and it's interesting because I just had a conversation about this today with somebody that I was talking with, and she's like, yeah, I always get the understanding, but I don't put it into action. And we need to do that. We need to see it. We need to think it. We need to feel it. We need to intellectualize it. We need to have the emotions over it. And this is what sets things in motion in our life. We have to take the action on it. It's not enough for me to say, oh yeah, I'm aware about compassion. If I don't implement compassion, I don't experience compassion. So it's not enough to be just a thought. I've got to feel it in my heart. I've got to let the emotions go through me. And I don't mean in a dramatic, emotional, overly, way out there way that's throwing me off balance. It's about realizing it's just the vibration. It's just what it is. And once I do that and I say, wow, even if I have a little piece of me today that maybe is in this energy space, that's enough. It's more than enough. Because all I have to do is focus on that little piece, even among everything else. And then it grows, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. So I'm hoping this brought some understanding about being more. More is not more. More is balance and attention and focus put into motion. Hey, take care, everybody. I hope you have an incredible month. And until then, have a very, very blessing-filled time. Take care.